From haunted houses to cursed artifacts, from whispers in the dark to battles you'll never read in scripture. This is the Unholy podcast, hosted by Doug Owen, author, investigator, and survivor of one of the most harrowing real-life hauntings ever documented. Each week, Doug pulls back the veil between this world and the next, sharing stories that aren't fiction, because he lived them. Prepare yourself. The silence is over.
All right, welcome back to the Unholy podcast. As always, I am your host, author, and paranormal investigator, Doug Owen. So today, I want to talk about our destinations. My destinations, where I've been. I want to talk about a couple of places that I've investigated. And one of the most haunted places on the planet is a ship once hailed as the Grey Ghost, now whispered about in history as the afterlife collides with ours. The RMS, of course, Queen Mary. One of the most haunted vessels afloat. Imagine walking its decks during the pandemic as I did. The ship was all to myself. St. Patrick's Day 2019. The ship moored in Long Beach, California. Its echoing halls were nearly deserted, and that day there were no tourists, no chatter, just the groaning of steel against water, and that feeling that something unseen was watching from the shadows. Even the air in the ship seemed different, heavy, as if you were trespassing in a place not entirely your own. Built in the 1930s, the Queen Mary was the pride of the Cunard Line, a glamorous transatlantic liner. She carried Hollywood stars, royalty, and dignitaries across the ocean in luxury. But when World War II erupted, her beauty was painted over in battleship gray, transforming her into a troopship capable of carrying thousands and thousands of soldiers. Hitler himself put a bounty on her head, desperate to sink this massive floating fortress. She survived, but not without tragedy. And as we know, tragedy leaves echoes. Let's start in the engine room. So when I went there, I was amazed at the size and complexity of the ship. A labyrinth of metal walkways, gauges, and thick sweating pipes. Here stands door 13, a watertight bulkhead. It was designed to save the ship from flooding in case of disaster. Instead, it did become a trap. Over the years, multiple crew members lost their lives here, crushed by the massive steel doors it shut. People say their spirits linger in the ship, trapped in the steel. Visitors report seeing a man in greasy overalls walking near the door, only for him to vanish into thin air. Some people feel a sudden rush of air as if the ship itself is exhaling. Others leave with bruises, claiming unseen hands grabbed them near the doorway. One collector even managed to acquire a piece of that very bulkhead. Hint, hint, that would be me. I sold this item on eBay, and the collector swore it glowed faintly in the dark. He left this amazing eBay review for me. He claimed it was pulsing like a heartbeat, and that it gave him a feeling of discontinuity with time. He was very happy with the item. He took it into his basement, turned the lights off, and claimed it had a faint glow to it. And yes, when I put the multimeter on this piece, it did glow. It did light up the multimeter. It was from a pipe that was being repaired when I was there, and the maintenance crew had left a pile of rubble, garbage bag, a torch for sweating the copper pipes, some copper fittings on the ground. There was no workers to be found, so I picked up the piece of the garbage, the refuse, but it was part of the original wall from the Queen Mary. So, above deck, the first-class swimming pool, that tells its own story. Elegant tile work, diving platforms, and Art Deco railings. When I was there, it was empty, drained, and eerily quiet, but far from silent. Witnesses described the splashing of water, the giggles of children, even wet footprints leading to nowhere. The pool was once the scene of drownings. Some believe those lost swimmers are still there, their souls forever reliving their final moments. One ghost in particular, a little girl clutching a teddy bear, has been reported dozens of times. Guests see her standing at the pool's edge, only to vanish, leaving behind an echo of childish laughter. Some have even claimed to hear her calling for her mother. The wartime history of the ship only deepens its haunting. During one tragic incident, the Queen Mary accidentally collided with one of her own escort ships, slicing it in two. Hundreds of men were left to the sea. Many were lost instantly. Survivors spoke of it, screams that carried on the wind. Could it be that some of those voices still drift along the corridors of the Queen Mary? The ship is also housed in an isolation ward during her service, a place where the sick and the dying. Imagine being confined to a narrow steel room with no hope of recovery, surrounded by muffled hums of engines and the knowledge that you would never see land again. Today, investigators report overwhelming feelings of dread when they visit that ward. Some describe icy drafts, even the stagnant air. Others claim to hear coughing, wheezing, dragging, shuffle of unseen footsteps. Now, when I visited there, the piece of bulkhead I took was from the area by the isolation ward. It is cordoned off with plexiglass, and the door is something you cannot access. You can see the bunk beds and the single sink and toilet that were there. It looked like they were putting 3 to 4 people in one room who were sick. On the wall next to the entrance to the isolation, there's a plaque that shows all of the people who lost their lives on the Queen Mary due to the tuberculosis. So then there's the ballroom, once glittering with chandeliers and filled with laughter. Now it sits silent except for the faint strains of music that sometimes drift from nowhere. Guests have reported shadowy figures swirling across the dance floor, locked in an endless waltz. One man in a tuxedo has been seen bowing politely to female visitors, only to fade into mist when approached. Why is the Queen Mary haunted? Some say it's simple. Death plus history equals ghosts. A simple formula that's not always true, but sometimes it is. Others argue that the ship itself was built with the materials of an earlier age. Those materials somehow absorbed the emotions of everyone who sailed her. Each joy, each heartbreak, each death imprinted into the steel. When you walk her decks, you're walking through layers of time, and sometimes those layers slip. During the pandemic, with the ship eerily empty, even the staff admitted they avoided certain areas after dark. Without the buffer of tourists, the silence made every creak and clang unbearable. One guard described the experience as walking through a, quote, floating mausoleum, end quote. Today, the Queen Mary is a hotel, a tourist attraction, and one of the world's most studied haunted locations. Paranormal investigators, psychics, and thrill seekers flock to her every year. In fact, they have a seance night where you can sign up for it, where you can conduct a seance with Ouija boards and try and contact the spirits that linger there. It's quite a moneymaker, I'm sure, for the business aspect of the Queen Mary. Some leave with nothing but stories, but others leave with scratches, recordings, or bone-deep certainty they weren't alone. When I was there, I used the restroom and found when I went in that the 4 sinks that were lined up neatly adjacent to each other, the water turned on full blast. Not even thinking that we were alone in the ship and there was no one there that day, just us, verified by the attendants and the people at every various desk. There seems to be a desk at every level, every floor. And they verified we were alone, but I thought to myself, well, those damn kids, just left the water on as a joke, turned the water off, and I used the facilities. When I was done, I washed my hands and left, and reconnected with the rest of my family that was there. And I explained to them I just used the restroom and I had seen the water running. Well, they told me I was foolish and I should have recorded some of the happenings there, because apparently the spirits like to turn the water on. Ghost children turn the faucets on and leave them there. So I had an encounter, a paranormal encounter with spirits, and didn't even realize it at the time. So, the Queen Mary is a huge haunted site. So the next time you're in Long Beach and you see a massive silhouette rising against the skyline, you ask yourself, would you dare step aboard? Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Queen Mary is more than just a relic of the past. She is a keeper of secrets, a monument to human history, and perhaps a doorway to the other side. The one specific room that is haunted by the Queen Mary, stateroom B340. That's the stateroom. It's considered one of the most haunted rooms in the world. Guests have reported paranormal activity, including the phantom figure standing at the end of their bed, unexplained noises, knocking, and of course being touched. Many people report having the blankets torn from them in the middle of the night's sleep. I spoke to one of the attendants, a female, on the same level, the B level, and the B deck. There's a desk there, and she's there in her maroon uniform, and she spoke with a British accent. Whether it was faked or not, I'm not sure, but it was very elegant and bougie. It added a nice touch. And I said to her, look, bullshit aside, what can you tell me about the hauntings here? What do you know? And she told me that yes, that room is something they all stay away from. They're terrified. The room has a dark history with deaths that have been reported, passengers who died in the 1940s. Another died of dementia. It was closed for decades due to the paranormal activity, but was renovated and reopened as a hotel room. So, I was told that the man figure and the sheets are the biggest thing that everybody reports in that room. Now, they removed the brass wall placard and the door number from B340. They don't have it anymore. They told me that people who would visit the ship whipped out pocket knives, screwdrivers, and pried the brass plate off of the door to keep as a memento. So the Queen Mary gift shop now prints and offers the B340 placard to buy. In fact, I did purchase one. But I do have a little video of myself outside of that door with flashing lights as I did my little speech, my little blurb and blog. So, shadowy man sitting at the foot of the bed, standing there, a little girl standing in the room. Loud knocking, unexplained noises. Bed sheets being pulled off, strange cold spots, and overall uneasy feeling. Well, that's when you enter the ship. The room is decorated like tarot cards, a crystal ball, and a Ouija board. Guests can also find accounts from previous visitors written on the wall. The room, after its closure, room B340, reopened for overnight stays in September of last year, 2024, following the ship's own reopening after a multi-year closure during COVID, so I think I was one of the last people to visit before this happened. But I want to make sure that I offer a staunch warning. If you're going to be investigating this ship, take care. Accidents happen, spirits are seen, and apparently they have the force to injure or interact with human beings. So, be aware and be aware. I also want to let everybody know that I will be the guest of honor at the local bookstore Shared Stories in Caldwell, Idaho, on October 2nd, 2025, 5 p.m., the festivities start. I will be reading excerpts from my book, The Unholy Silence. I will be conducting a Q&A session to the public, one night with the paranormal investigators, ask questions. And then afterwards, I will be doing a book signing, so you'll get to come meet me in person. Sponsored by Flying M Coffee. They'll be doing a cookie decorating activity as well. So come out, enjoy the atmosphere, have a cookie. I'll read you a bedtime story that'll send chills down your spine. You can get your book signed by me. And remember, sometimes the silence is the most terrifying thing.
You've just heard another chilling chapter of the Unholy podcast, hosted by Doug Owen, author, investigator, and witness to the things most fear to name. For more real stories, cursed objects, and exclusive content, step deeper into the dark at authorDougOwen.com. Subscribe, share, and remember, some silences aren't empty, they're waiting.